"Tai seek to conquer. We only wanted to protect our home." With cameras broadcasting worldwide, Hannah pressed the button on her device. On screens around the hall, live feeds from the Viridian ships showed the immediate effect. The pulsing energy that had made the plants grow so aggressively faded. Flowers closed their petals. The vines stopped their movement, becoming ordinary plants once more. A murmur of amazement spread through the hall. "The dormancy program will spread through all plants within 24 hours, Hannah explained. "Your ships will remain functional, but you'll need to carefully remove the growth. We're willing to help with that process." Later that evening, Hannah stood in her greenhouse laboratory, tending to the original Terran vine specimen. Unlike its descendants throughout the Viridian fleet, this plant remained fully active, a living reminder of what they had accomplished. Talon entered hesitantly, still adjusting to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. "Dr. Kim," he said, using the translator pinned to his chest. "May I speak with you?" Hannah nodded, continuing her work. "Our scientists have studied your plant for weeks," Talon said. "We still can't fully understand how you encoded such complex behaviors into its DNA. How did you create something so intelligent?" Hannah smiled slightly. "Your people made a fundamental mistake in how you view life in the universe. You rank species by their technology, their weapons, their ability to dominate." She gently touched a leaf of the plant. "Earth's strength isn't in domination, it's in connection. Every plant, every animal, every microbe here has evolved in relation to others. I didn't create the plant's intelligence, I simply guided what was already there." "The Supreme Commander believes you must have superior technology hidden somewhere," Talon admitted. "That thinking is exactly why you lost," Hannah replied. "Sometimes the greatest power comes from the things others underestimate." The next morning, the first official peace treaty between Earth and the Viridian Collective was signed. As part of the agreement, Talon was appointed ambassador to Earth, tasked with establishing true cultural exchange based on mutual respect. The Viridian ships gradually departed Earth's orbit, their hulls still bearing the marks of the plants that had defeated them. They left behind a changed understanding of the small blue planet they had once thought so easily conquered. In her greenhouse, Hannah began work on new plant varieties. Not weapons this time, but species designed to help restore areas damaged during the brief invasion. On her desk sat a small communication device, a direct line to the new Viridian leadership, who now sought her expertise in biological sciences. "They came looking for resources to exploit," she told her assistant as they catalogued new seedlings. "Instead, they found a lesson in respect." Outside her window, a small Viridian shuttle landed, bringing diplomats eager to learn from the planet whose humble plants had consumed their world and transformed their understanding of power in the universe. "What is happening?" demanded Ultan, his voice shaking for the first time. "We underestimated them," Talon replied simply, "especially their plants." As night fell on Earth, the invasion had been halted without a single human weapon being fired. The Viridian fleet hung in the sky, transformed into floating gardens, their conquered worlds liberated by the silent, inexorable growth of a plant they had once mocked. The mothership's corridors had become a jungle, vines thicker than arms wrapped around support beams, while flowers bloomed from ceiling panels. Supreme Commander Ultan waded through knee-high growth on the command deck, his silver eyes wide with disbelief. What had once been the most advanced vessel in the Viridian fleet was now a floating greenhouse. "Status report," he demanded, but the officers around him struggled to respond. The pollen in the air made thinking difficult, creating a fog-like effect on Viridian minds. "All weapon systems offline," reported his second-in-command, fighting to focus. "Communication with the fleet is limited to emergency channels. The plants have reached the engine core. We can't restart." Outside the windows, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, seemingly untouched by their mighty invasion force. The irony wasn't lost on Ultan. They had come to consume this world's resources, but were instead being consumed by its vegetation. On the lower decks, Talon worked frantically to understand what was happening. He had created a sealed laboratory, using emergency barriers, keeping the rapidly growing plant at bay long enough to study its transformation. What he discovered amazed him. The cellular structure is changing by the minute, he recorded in his log. These plants aren't just growing, they're evolving in real time, adapting specifically to our technology and biology. When he examined the pollen under a microscope, he saw it contained compounds that interacted specifically with viridian brain chemistry, not enough to cause harm, but sufficient to induce a mild sedative effect. The roots secreted a substance that interfered with the ship's power conduits, but left the actual hardware undamaged. This isn't random growth, Talon realized. This is a carefully engineered attack. On Earth, Dr. Kim Hana hadn't slept for 3 days. She monitored the plant's progress across the entire Viridian fleet from her command center. Green dots on her screen represented growth hotspots throughout the alien vessels. The primary and secondary systems of all major ships have been neutralized, she reported to General Moon. Their ground forces are retreating as the plants spread through their portable equipment. Casualties? The general asked. None, Hana replied. The plant isn't designed to kill, it immobilizes and contains. What about our people they captured? Hana pointed to a different screen showing human life signs. The plant recognizes human DNA and grows around them, not on them. It's creating safe passages for them to escape. Reports came in from around the world. Viridian mining operations had ground to a halt as equipment became entangled in rapidly growing vines. Transport ships sat useless on the ground, their sleek hulls covered in green. Alien soldiers found their advanced armor suits infiltrated by tiny roots that gently locked joints and disabled weapons. In space, the situation was even more dramatic. The entire Viridian fleet hung in orbit, each ship transformed into a botanical wonder. Smaller vessels had been completely overtaken, with only their general shape visible beneath the green coverage. The mothership, large enough to hold a small city, pulsed with life as the Terran vine continued its relentless spread. Commander Ultan ordered desperate measures. Burn it out! Use the emergency plasma cutters! In the engine room, technicians activated high-temperature tools designed for repairs in space. For a moment it seemed to work. The plants withered under the intense heat. But the victory was short-lived. The burned sections released a cloud of heat-activated spores that spread to untouched areas and began growing at twice the previous rate. Stop! Stop the burning immediately! Talon's voice came over the emergency channel. You're making it worse. The plant adapts to threats. But it was too late. The desperate attempts to fight back had only accelerated the process. Within hours, critical life support systems began to fail as the plant's growth overwhelmed the filtration units. Emergency oxygen supplies activated automatically, but these too were limited. Talon made his way to the command deck, using a protective suit he had modified to resist the plant's adhesive sap. He found Ultan, and what remained of the command, staff surrounded by a sea of greenery. We have no choice, Talon said. We must contact the humans and surrender. Surrender? Ultan's voice was thick with disbelief. To primitives with plants? These primitives have defeated our entire fleet. Without firing a single shot, Talon replied. This plant was engineered specifically to target our technology while leaving theirs untouched. It's not random nature, it's brilliance. As if to emphasize his point, the lights flickered and died as the main power core finally succumbed to the relentless green invasion. Emergency lighting cast an eerie glow through the vine-covered room. On the main screen, the face of Dr. Kim Hana appeared, calm and collected. She had opened a direct channel to what remained of the ship's communication system. Supreme Commander. Ultan, she said, her voice clear. I believe it's time we discussed terms. Around her neck hung a small device, the activator for the plant's next phase. Whether that would bring restoration or complete consumption depended entirely on the commander's next words. The fate of the Viridian fleet hung in the balance, trapped in a green prison of their own making, outmaneuvered by an enemy they had fatally underestimated. The Grand Hall of the United Nations had never hosted such unusual visitors. Blue-skinned Viridians, their once pristine uniforms now stained with plant sap, stood awkwardly before the world's leaders. Supreme Commander Ultan, his silver eyes dulled with defeat, approached the podium. Tiny vines still clung to his shoulders despite efforts to remove them. 2 weeks had passed since the failed invasion. The Viridian mothership, now more garden than warship, had been guided to land in an isolated desert region. Scientists from around the world marveled at how thoroughly the alien vessel had been transformed. Every corridor, every room, every system was intertwined with the Terran vine. The ship that was meant to lead Earth's conquest had become a symbol of its defense. On behalf of the Viridian Collective, Ultan began, his voice amplified through a translator, I formally surrender all forces and accept the terms offered by Earth's nations. The hall remained silent. This was not a victory won through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through a houseplant. Many still struggled to believe it. Dr. Kim Hanna sat in the front row, a small control device in her hand. Next to her, Talon, now appointed as the chief Viridian representative, watched nervously. He had defected days after the plants overwhelmed the fleet, bringing valuable information about his people's weaknesses and strengths. The terms are simple, announced the UN Secretary-General. All Viridian forces will withdraw immediately. All resources taken will be returned. A small diplomatic presence may remain for cultural exchange. True exchange this time. Ultan nodded stiffly. And the plants? Will they be deactivated? All eyes turned to Hana. She stood and approached the podium, looking small next to the tall aliens. The Terran vine has a secondary programming sequence, she explained, holding up the device. When activated, it will enter a dormant phase. It will remain alive but stop growing. Over time, it can be safely removed from your ships and systems. How do we know this isn't another trick? Ultan demanded, his 4 hands clenching nervously. You don't, Hana replied simply. But unlike the Viridian Collective, we don't. General Moon pointing to satellite images of massive excavations. And their medical technology they shared turned out to have tracking devices. They're mapping our entire defense network. Hana nodded, unsurprised. That matches the pattern from their previous conquests. The data my plant is collecting shows they've done this to 7 other worlds. Your plant is still secure? Asked the general, looking concerned. Completely, Hana replied, enlarging an image on her screen. The Viridians categorize all plant life as primitive and harmless. They're not monitoring it at all. In fact, they're spreading it themselves. The screen showed thermal images of the Terran vine growing throughout the mothership's ventilation system. Another screen tracked the plant's presence on 3 smaller Viridian vessels and their homeworld. High-ranking Viridians took cuttings as curiosities, Hana explained. They see it as a status symbol now, proof they've conquered another world. My creation is in the personal quarters of their supreme leader. When can we activate it? Asked a nervous intelligence officer. They've started rounding up scientists. They'll come for you soon. Not yet, Hana said firmly. The root system needs to reach their primary life support and communication hubs. Another 2 weeks at most. Across the world, the Viridian occupation grew harsher. Their ships now openly transported Earth's resources to their homeworld. Humans who resisted disappeared. Yet strangely, some Viridian operations began experiencing unexplained equipment failures and communication problems. In his quarters, Talon woke to find the plant had grown dramatically overnight. Its vines now covered his ceiling and had begun spreading into the air ducts. He should report this unusual growth, but something stopped him. The plant seemed almost intelligent in how it grew, avoiding detection from the ship's sensors. What are you? He whispered, touching a leaf gently. The plant seemed to respond, curling slightly toward his hand. That day, during a routine examination of the ship's central air processing unit, Talon discovered something shocking. Fine, hair-like roots had infiltrated the system, forming an intricate network throughout the ship's critical infrastructure. The roots were so delicate they hadn't triggered any alarms, yet so strong that removing them would require dismantling the entire system. When he scanned the roots, he found they matched the Earth plant's DNA. Checking ship records, he discovered that similar plants were now present on every Viridian vessel in the fleet. Back on Earth, Hana received the latest data from her creation. The plant had successfully integrated with every major system on the Viridian ships, yet remained completely undetected. Its roots had reached the ship's power cores, communication arrays, and life support systems. It's ready, she told General Moon. her fingers hovering over the activation sequence. The moment they begin their final assault, we can trigger the plant's secondary growth phase. And what happens then? Asked the general. Hana's expression remained calm as she explained. The plant will release compounds that disable their technology, while harmlessly containing the Viridians themselves. They thought they were conquering us, but they've been carrying their defeat within their ships all along. As she spoke, alerts flashed across the screens. The Viridian fleet was mobilizing for what appeared to be a massive attack on Earth's major cities. It's time, said the general. Hana nodded. Let's show them how dangerous a harmless plant can be. Sirens wailed across cities worldwide as Viridian warships descended through the clouds. Their massive vessels cast dark shadows over panicked crowds below. After 3 months of peaceful exchange, the aliens had finally revealed their true purpose. Conquest had begun. In Seoul, people rushed to emergency shelters as smaller Viridian crafts deployed troops with advanced weapons. The alien soldiers moved with mechanical precision, rounding up government officials and securing strategic locations. Dr. Kim Hana watched the invasion from the underground military bunker, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. Unlike the frightened officers around her, she remained oddly calm. They're attacking every major city simultaneously, reported General Moon, his voice tight with tension. Our weapons barely damage their shields. Beijing has already surrendered. London and New York are under heavy assault. It's time, Hana said quietly. She opened a secure case containing a single device with a red button. The plant has spread throughout their entire fleet. The root systems have integrated with their life support, communication arrays, and power distribution networks. The general hesitated. Are you certain this will work? Millions of lives depend on it. I've spent my entire career understanding how plants adapt and evolve, Hana replied. The Viridians ignored my creation because they couldn't imagine something so primitive could threaten them. That was their mistake. As another explosion rocked the bunker, Hana pressed the button. The device emitted a signal that would travel across space, activating the dormant genetic programming in every Terran vine aboard the Viridian ships. Aboard the mothership, Talon was reviewing strange readings from the environmental systems when the alarms began. At first they were subtle, slight temperature fluctuations, minor pressure changes in the ventilation system. Then came the reports from across the ship, strange growth appearing in crew quarters, vine-like tendrils emerging from air vents, and delicate white flowers blooming in the corridors. Containment team to level 4, shouted Commander Veltar over the communication system. Some Earth parasite is spreading through the ship. Talon rushed to his quarters where he had kept his original plant sample. What he found stunned him. The once small vine had transformed. It pulsed with an inner light and its growth rate had increased exponentially. As he watched, new tendrils grew several centimeters per minute, reaching toward the door and ceiling. It's not a parasite, Talon whispered in realization. It's a weapon. Across the ship, chaos erupted as the Terran vine underwent its dramatic awakening. The small white flowers that had seemed so harmless now released a pollen that made Viridian soldiers dizzy and confused. Crew members who tried to cut the plants discovered that breaking the stems released a sticky sap that hardened on contact with their skin, immobilizing their limbs. In the command center, Supreme Commander Ulton received frantic reports from his invasion force. Our ships are experiencing system failures. Communications are down in sectors 3 through 7. The ground forces report their weapons are malfunctioning, another officer added, and strange plants are growing inside their combat suits. Hultan's silver eyes narrowed. Plants? Impossible. Find the source and destroy it immediately. But the Viridians quickly discovered that conventional weapons made the situation worse. Energy blasts caused the plants to release spores that spread the growth even faster. Cutting tools became entangled in rapidly regenerating vines. Within hours, critical systems throughout the fleet began shutting down as the plant's roots gently but firmly disrupted power connections. On Earth, Hana monitored the progress through data transmitted from the plants themselves. Each living cell of her creation acted as both sensor and transmitter, feeding information back to her computers. The mothership's engines are offline, she reported to the assembled military leaders. Their weapons systems are down. The invasion force is in complete disarray. How is that possible? Asked an admiral in disbelief. A plant did all this. Not just any plant, Hana explained. I designed it to respond to their specific biology and technology. The vines produce compounds that interfere with their neural patterns, making it difficult for them to concentrate. The roots secrete a substance that interrupts the flow of their ship's energy systems without damaging the hardware. It's completely non-lethal, but utterly effective. On the main screen, they watched as Viridian troops began retreating to their ships, only to find their vessels overrun with lush green growth. The massive mothership, once a symbol of alien superiority, now drifted powerless in orbit, its sleek surface covered in a living carpet of vines and flowers. Talon made his way to the mothership's command center, pushing through corridors that had become tunnels of vegetation. The Supreme Commander and his officers stood surrounded by gently swaying vines, their weapons useless in their hands. The bright green ship descended from the clouds, causing panic in the small coastal city. People ran in all directions as military vehicles rushed to the scene. After years of searching the stars, the Viridians had finally found Earth. Park Jun-ho watched from his laboratory window as the alien delegation stepped onto human soil for the first time. As head of security for the scientific division, he had been briefed about this moment for weeks, but nothing prepared him for the sight of the tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and silver eyes. "They look almost peaceful," whispered Lee Jiwoo, the young researcher standing beside him. "Don't be fooled," Junho replied. "Intelligence says they've done this before. They come as friends but leave as conquerors." 3 days later, the Viridians established what they called a cultural exchange program. They offered medical knowledge and energy technology that seemed miraculous to humans. In return, they asked only for permission to study Earth's resources and wildlife. World leaders, dazzled by alien technology, agreed quickly. Dr. Kim Hana worked late in her greenhouse laboratory, while most scientists attended the grand reception for the Viridian ambassadors. At 45, Hana was considered brilliant but difficult. She preferred plants to people and had rejected an invitation to meet the aliens. "So you should be there," said Professor Kang, her department head, appearing at her door. "They're specifically asking for botanists." Hana barely looked up from her microscope. "I'm busy with something important. More important than first contact with an advanced alien species," Kang sighed. "The president himself ordered all leading scientists to attend. That includes you." Hours later, Hana stood uncomfortably in a corner of the grand hall, watching as the Viridian ambassador Ultan towered over the human delegates. Unlike her excited colleagues, she noticed how the aliens' eyes lingered on Earth's resource reports rather than the cultural presentations. When it came time for gift exchanges, world leaders presented precious metals, art and technology, the Viridians seemed unimpressed until they received diamonds, which made their silver eyes flash with interest. "And what does Earth's Botanical Science Division offer?" Ambassador Ultan's translator device asked, his 4 arms folded across his chest as he looked down at Hana. Hana stepped forward with a small pot containing what looked like an ordinary vine with tiny white flowers. "This is a Terran vine, a hybrid I developed. It can adapt to almost any environment and purify air." The alien delegation burst into strange clicking sounds, their version of laughter. "You offer us a plant?" Ambassador Ultan said. "We expected something of value from your botanical division." "Plants are the foundation of life," Hana replied calmly. "This one is special. It learns from its environment." "How quaint," the ambassador said, handing the pot to a junior officer named Talon. "We will add it to our collection of primitive curiosities." That night, Hana was summoned to a secret meeting in an underground facility. 5 military generals and the head of intelligence sat around a table. "Did they accept your gift, Dr. Kim?" asked General Moon, his face grave. "Yes, they laughed as we expected," Hana replied. "Show us," the general commanded. Hana opened her laptop. On the screen, a tiny blinking dot moved within what appeared to be a schematic of the Viridian ship in orbit around Earth. "The tracking system in the plant is working perfectly," she explained. Each cell contains microscopic sensors. The plant is already spreading tiny spores throughout their air filtration system. And they suspect nothing? Asked another general. They think it's just a harmless decoration, Hana said. Plants are considered the lowest form of life to them. Their arrogance makes them blind. Over the next weeks, the Viridians began showing their true intentions. They established mining operations in Africa and South America, claiming they were research stations. Their ships took more than they gave, and human workers reported harsh treatment. In her laboratory, Hana monitored the growth of her creation aboard the alien ships. The plant was spreading faster than expected. Its roots, finding ways into critical systems. Its spores carried through ventilation to every corner of the Viridian vessels. They've taken samples to their homeworld and 3 colony planets, she reported to General Moon. The plant is now growing in 17 different Viridian locations across their territory. When will it be ready? He asked. Soon, Hana replied, watching the screen as the blinking dots multiplied. They think they're studying us, but we're learning everything about them through my plant. Their weaknesses, their biology, their technology. As Hana spoke, a Viridian ship landed near a major city, unloading weapons. The conquest was beginning. They mock what they don't understand, Hana said quietly. They laugh at plants while worshipping. Technology. They'll learn soon enough. She looked at the activation switch on her desk. They'll learn very soon. Aboard the massive Viridian mothership, junior biologist Talon carefully examined the strange Earth plant under a specialized light. Unlike his fellow scientists who dismissed the gift as worthless, he found himself drawn to its unusual structure. The plant had survived in their atmosphere when it should have died, and over the past month, it had not only lived, but thrived. Still, playing with that weed, Commander Veltar entered the laboratory, his forearms crossed in disapproval. The High Council wants updates on the human biological weaknesses, not gardening reports. There's something unusual about this specimen, Talon replied, not looking up from his work. It's adapting to our environment at an impossible rate. I've never seen cellular restructuring like this in any plant species we've encountered. Waste of time, Veltar snapped. Those humans are primitive, their plants are even more primitive. Focus on your real assignment or be replaced. After the commander left, Talon secretly took samples from the plant, which had now grown to 3 times its original size. He had kept the strange growth hidden from his superiors, moving it to his private quarters where it now spread along his walls in delicate patterns. Each morning, new white flowers bloomed, releasing tiny spores so light they floated in the air like dust. Talon found the scent pleasant, though some of his crewmates had begun complaining of headaches and breathing difficulties. On Earth, Dr. Kim Hana worked through another night in her underground laboratory, surrounded by screens showing the tracking, data from her creation. The military facility around her buzzed with activity as reports came in from around the world. The Viridians had established mining operations on every continent and had begun moving humans away from resource-rich areas. They're processing twice the minerals they claimed they would take, reported.